Hello. Finding a good doctor can be quite a challenge. If only their grade point average was printed on their diplomas. You never know if he or she graduated at the top of their class or just squeaked by. Nowadays, there are Google reviews to help decide, but negative reviews can be misleading as to who did wrong, the doctor or the patient. Both sides are sizing up each other on the first appointment. When one comes down with a rare disease, such as I did, the tendency is to find the best there is for that disease. But if there is no cure or standard treatment for that disease, how is that possible? It isn't. What one needs is a doctor that's familiar with that disease and knows what to expect. One that can say, "Yes, Mrs. Smith, your esophagus issues are typical with scleroderma," and "No, Mrs. Smith, that spot on your neck is just a hickey." I went through 2 good, decent rheumatologists before I found the third that really knows scleroderma. Then I made her my primary care doctor, which is usually reserved for one's regular general practitioner. When I did have a general practitioner, I chose a DO over an MD that specializes in sports medicine, not because I was playing sports, but because I felt that meant a greater understanding about the human body over most others. He was so good that he was the one who diagnosed the scleroderma in 2005, when most doctors completely forget rare diseases they aren't likely to encounter after med school. When he gave me the bad news, he also mentioned that while rare, some people have gone into remission. I decided right there and then that I was going to be one of them. And while things got worse before they got better, here I am in remission for 6 years now. Never underestimate the power of intention. One deciding factor for me is that a doctor should have a healthy appearance. An obese doctor that is hunched over with a yellowish complexion should probably be avoided. There is one disturbing thing about just about every doctor there is, and that is their lack of concern and knowledge of nutrition. To be fair, it's not entirely their fault, as most were not taught that in med school. That is changing now, but I still don't know if the newest generation of doctors are going to come right out and ask about what you're eating. That has never happened to me once. If a relatively healthy person visits their doctor complaining about running out of energy before lunchtime, there is a 99.99 chance that it is nutrition related. But if their doctor isn't hip to that, there's a good chance they will be leaving with a prescription for something they don't really need. What can be done about that? If you ever get surveys from your doctor's office or from a recent hospital visit, that's the perfect time and place to say something. As I mentioned in the first episode, I lucked out with my cardiologist. He was on floor duty that day when they rolled me into the hospital. And when my heart troubles came around again a couple years later, I insisted on him again. He has been my official cardiologist ever since. My GI doctor works in the same facility as my rheumatologist. She understands nutrition well, because if you specialize in the digestive system, you probably should. So here are the things my 3 doctors have in common that you may want to look for. The biggest thing is obviously, do they listen? Do they sit down, listen, and type what you're saying into their laptop? Do they value your time? The folks in the front office might not, but I wouldn't worry about them. It's the doctor's respect you need. Do they understand how hard it is to make some of the changes they may be expecting of you? Or do they do the shame and guilt thing that never works? A doctor needs to be polite yet firm when they have to be. Many times it is the patient that is being difficult. And don't let it bother you if you have to remind them of things that you talked about just last month. They may have seen 100 other patients since then. Doctors, more so in hospitals than in a private practice, are notoriously overworked, and some work in both hospitals and their private practice. One big thing you can do to make communication with your doctor much easier is either through the internet, the library, or free community college courses. Learn some basics on human anatomy and medicine. That is, know where and what your inner bits and pieces are and do. That's the basics I have learned in finding a good doctor. We'll see you again next week.